listen, you're entitled to the information. It's your decision if you want to stay in that relationship or not, or what it looks like to rebuild it. But I think you owe it to people to make that decision for themselves. We don't get to make that decision for them. I hope that makes sense. It's not up to you. It's up to them. I know that's scary. I know that feels like a loss of control, but that's kind of the point. We return control to the harmed person and let them dictate the terms of what repair looks like. Welcome to Mindset Mondays. That's what I'm going to call my audio newsletters that I release here, because a lot of times I'm talking about concepts that have just really helped me mentally. They've driven me and motivated me in several different ways to be better, and that's what I'm trying to do here on this. Generally, my newsletters are either validating or they're motivating. This is going to be a motivating one. I don't have a name for the validating ones yet, but I'll come up with something. I want to thank Jill for helping me with this. My good friend Jill sent me some suggestions on what I should call these things. This episode is going to be based off of a question that we got, and we love listener questions most of the time. When they're, messages, I think that a lot of people have questions on. And by no means am I a 12-step expert. I've worked it. Yeah. I've helped other people do it. Yeah. I'm not an authority on it. There exists no such authority whatsoever. But one of the things that people screw up more than anything is the 9th step. And if you don't know what the 9th step is, it is the amends step. This is when we take accountability for our wrongs, and we meet people face to face, one-on-one usually, and we take accountability for those things. We make amends. The step actually reads, made amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. It's that last part that I think really screws people up. Except when to do so would injure them or others. A lot of people, they see that as one of the greatest escape clauses ever written. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about how I think, anyway, that just being transparent and honesty and honest and actually making amends. We'll talk about what that actually means. Can actually save your relationships. This is a life skill. This isn't just something relevant for people in recovery. Everyone needs to know how to do this. I don't know why we're not taught how to make a proper apology. I actually learned from a sign in a sandwich shop called Jimmy John's. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. But a proper apology only has a few parts. One, anyway, what I did was wrong. 2, I feel badly that I hurt you. And 3, what can I do to make this right? That's all you have to do. Acknowledge the thing, acknowledge the pain caused, have real compassion, take some time. And if you don't understand what that means, spend some time with it. Why was it wrong? How did it hurt? What that must have felt like? And then what can I do to make that right? Amends is a verb. And I think that's what's important. It's not just acknowledging. It's more than that. So we're going to talk really about that escape clause, because we got an email from a listener who said they'd like some clarification on this, because her husband is really taking advantage of that escape clause, except when to do so would injure them or others. I think the spirit of this step is powerful, and it's often twisted into some spiritualized excuse for continued avoidance, I guess, or like secrecy or some kind of like self-protection. And I want to talk about how withholding the truth under the guise of not wanting to cause more harm, quote unquote, is actually going to do more harm, especially in close relationships. And so I'm going to talk to you about how I made these amends, my perspective on these things, how when it works, when it doesn't, and what's the difference between amends and a performative apology? Like, what is accountability actually? I'm going to break down the difference between genuine care and convenient avoidance, if you will, and how to stop doing things that you keep apologizing for, and why I think that radical transparency is the only way to rebuild safety and trust. So the real purpose of step 9, let's just get that out of the way. To make amends. A lot of times this is the one that spouses and partners look forward to the most. We've had anonymous posters, and I know that it comes from a genuine place, but it always kind of cracks me up, because they'll say, like, my husband started attending meetings once a week, and I at what point do they make the amends? Like, I can't wait for that. It's like, hang on. There's a lot of stuff that goes before that process. The steps are laid out in a way that one builds on another. And so you don't get to that point until you've even identified how you've hurt people. And you do that in this process that they call an inventory. And so we identify, those that we've harmed in various ways, and stuff that's going on within us, and how it shows up in our relationships. And then you have these aha moments and how we've hurt people with those things that are oftentimes called character defects or defects of character. And they build on one another anyway. So what I'm saying is it takes a little time for people to get there, right? But step 9 is not about unburdening your guilt. It's about repairing harm. Amends. Like, let's look it up actually. What is the definition of the word amends? I'm typing this into Google right now because I don't even know like the actual definition. Let's see here. To put right. That's what it means, to put right. It is a verb. It means to correct, to make things right. It is not just saying sorry. It is not about unburdening your guilt. It is about repairing harm. So the second half of the step. So the step reads, remember, made amends to such people. When it says such people, it's referring to step 8, which is where we make a list of people that we have harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And then in step 9, we make amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. The second half of that, except when to do so would injure them or others, is meant to protect people, not excuse you. I knew this guy who was like, man, he was like a spiritual giant to me. He's no longer with us. He was an amazing guy. And he used to say about this step is that you are not others. Matt, you are not others. They're not talking about you. It's for other people. It's meant to protect people, not excuse you from doing hard things, talking about something or admitting something that you don't want to fess up to or admit. But what I found anyway is that a lot of people weaponize this. It's like an escape clause for them in an effort to avoid hard conversations. And I guess anyone can read it and be like, okay, cool. I guess I can skip the really uncomfortable ones. And that's not recovery. That's self-preservation dressed up as wisdom, I guess. Like that's not meant for you. Okay. Let's talk about harm. What does harm actually mean? Except when to do so would injure them or others. So how are we causing harm? This is re-traumatizing someone possibly. Let's say that someone has a protection order against you or something to that effect. Let's say that you've abused someone and they have gone no contact. That means you don't get to go chase them down and make them relive that moment. Okay. That's a situation I could think of where you probably don't need to make amends to them. Maybe there's a time and a place for that, but it's probably not right now while they have a protection order against you. Okay. It's not when you could threaten someone's safety, like I mentioned in those situations, or destabilize their healing. If they've gone through a long process of trying to deconstruct you from their life, it's probably not appropriate to bring up all this stuff and re-traumatize them again, okay? So here's what's not harm. Making your partner uncomfortable with the truth. That's not harm. What else is not harm? You getting your ego bruised. What else is not harm? Your fear of what they might do with the information that you give them. People say, I don't want to hurt them again. But the truth is, they're already hurt. You're just delaying the repair process. Amends matters so much to a relationship, man. This is just like day one stuff in a relationship. When you've done something to hurt somebody else, logic, common sense says that you take accountability for that thing. Like the Jimmy John's sign, what I did was wrong. Acknowledge what I did was wrong. In order to do that, you're going to have to know right from wrong. You're going to have to know what you did and why it was wrong. And then the second piece of that is empathy. I feel badly that I've hurt this person so much so that I need to make that right with an amends. That's what an apology is. And this is important in every relationship you're ever going to have. This isn't just a recovery specific thing. Everyone needs to apologize from time to time. But you should only have to say sorry once, man. This is something that gets under my skin. I think a lot of people do this with the wrong intent. It's not like it's not just some pass you give to go and fuck up again. Like the way I've always said it to Paige is like I should only have to say sorry once. After that, man, I'm not paying attention. I'm not being considerate of what you need. I'm not really caring about how this is going to affect you. I'm thinking about myself. That's the way I think of it anyway. And when I make an amends with someone, when I say I'm sorry, I should only really have to do that once. And transparency, dude, it matters so much in relationships. I think the most common one, the most frequent this pops up is when someone's had an affair. And I've known people that have been through this. They have had an affair with somebody and they don't want to break their spouse's heart. They know that saying this is going to likely bring about the end of their marriage. And that's very possible. My advice to those people has always been to be honest. You need to be honest about it. But I think it comes with some conditions. I think you be honest, but you also need to ask respectfully whether or not they want all the details or not. So that's usually how this works, right? It's usually two things, I should say. It's either about money or it's about affairs. Those are the two things that people usually try to weasel out of. So if it's an affair, and I never had one, so I don't know, but this is my take on it. And I've talked to other people about this and they ask me for my opinion on it, and I will give them the same one every time. You need to be honest about it. You need to be forthright. You need to be upfront, because what good is a relationship built on someone assuming you're something you're not? It's up to them to make the decision of whether or not they want to continue a relationship with you with that information. Now, I don't think that you go to someone and you give them all the intimate, gory details and you make them, you burn those memories in their mind forever. But I think if I were to have an affair, and this has never happened, but if I was going to approach someone and apologize for one, I would say something like this: hey, I was unloyal and I had an affair, and I wouldn't name the person. I wouldn't get into gory details. I wouldn't talk about frequency, but I would let them know I want to be respectful of you and understand that I don't want to make you have to relive all this. I just think that you should know if we're going to have a relationship moving forward, it needs to be based on truth and honesty. And you get to decide if you want to stick through this with me or not, if you want to rebuild from this. And I think we can be stronger, but you need to know. And then you let them decide how much they want to really know about it. All the gory details and all that stuff, frequency and where and when, all that shit. Let them determine that. I don't think that you come out with that. I think that's the only disclaimer I would ever give somebody is you let them decide how much they want to know. And there's some people, honestly, when you could approach it to say, like, would you ever want to know if I did something like this? Maybe that's a better way to handle it. And they might say, no, I don't want to know. I would never want to know. I would rather go the rest of my life assuming that you've been loyal. If that's the way you want to run a relationship, do it. I just think that it should be based on honesty and truthfulness. Even if I had done something like that, I would want to know that my marriage today is based on her having that knowledge and still choosing to work through that with me. Just my take. But transparency matters because your partner can't heal from what they don't know. They can't. Secrets, even small ones, sort of erode that foundation. At the very least, the relationship is based on false pretenses. And you think that you're protecting them from lying or admitting, and it's really just manipulation in a nicer outfit. And people don't really need perfection, I don't think. I think everyone would like to think that something like this won't happen to them, but I think that they need clarity. Like, my marriage didn't get better just because I got sober. My marriage got better when I stopped being shady and I stopped providing half-truths, when I stopped lying by omission, when I stopped filtering, and when I stopped thinking about how I was going to be affected and I started to think about my wife. That's when my marriage got better. And this also comes up a lot when it comes to finances. Like, I knew this guy who, in the spirit of, like, I think, like, really making amends is just being forthright and honest. I knew this guy who was stealing from his employer, and he's stolen a lot over the years, and he no longer worked there. And he didn't have a family. So when it talks about injuring them or others, let's say that you have dependents, and those dependents would be put in a really terrible situation if you went to jail. That's kind of what it means. Like, do you necessarily come out with a crime that has never been discovered and there were no real victims of just to do it? In which case would mean that your family is now without a home and resources if they're dependent on you. Like, I don't think that you do that. Maybe you find a different way to make those financial amends. Maybe you donate to charity. Maybe you send anonymous checks to these people and hope they cash them. I don't know. But this guy didn't have a family. He didn't have anything. It was just him. The only person that would have been harmed by him coming forth was himself. And so I told him, you have to do it, man. You got to let him know. And if you're right about it and you offer to make restitution, they're probably just going to be cool with it. Two things will happen though, or maybe three. One, most likely, is that they'll want some form of repayment. Two, they'll appreciate you coming forth. Say we've already closed the books and we're not really concerned too much about it. Three is they call the cops and you end up in jail. I checked with several other people who had been through something like this, and we agreed, like, dude, you should just be forthright with them and see what happens. And it was the last time the guy ever called me. He never called me back. I don't even know what he ended up doing. Obviously, probably not what I suggested, but that's injuring them or others. Like, you are not others, dude. If you get in trouble for this, like, that's not. No one else is harmed from this, right? He didn't want to risk it. And I get it. Like, I get it, but I would come forth. I would. If I had a family, I would find probably some other way to do this. But some people would know, I would think I'd tell my intimate circle about this. I would take some form of accountability to it. But so, like, what do real amends actually look like? They're relational. They're not just performative. Like, they involve acknowledging specific harm and how it impacted the other person. And they involve changing behavior, not just saying sorry. And they come with no expectation whatsoever of being forgiven or, oh, we can just move on. I don't think that my wife ever needed a perfect apology from me. I think she just needed to see me take real ownership without defensiveness and support that with new behavior. Like, the best apology of all time looks something like this, in my opinion. You acknowledge what you've done. You acknowledge the harm. You show compassion and empathy for that harm and how that must have felt. And then you change, you say sorry formally. I'm sorry that I've harmed you. And then you don't do it again. You change your behavior. The best apology of all time is change behavior, period. That's the end of the day. That's what really matters to people. So stop doing shit you have to apologize for. This was me for years and years and years. Like, the best amends are ones you never have to make again. And clean living isn't like about being boring. Like, it doesn't mean you never get to make mistakes. It just means you're free. Like, if you want less chaos, stop creating it. Something that always bugged my wife was like my lack of effort in being an adult. Like, I would sleep in all the time. I would make up lies about being sick when I really wasn't sick, just to miss work. And to her, like, we talked about, like, when we had kids, like, we wanted her to be home with those kids for like the first 5 years. It was important to us that she was home for those first few years. And that means that she's very dependent on our income, and not just our income, but my going concern as an employee, which means, like, how am I showing up at work? Am I putting forth effort? Like, if she was going to be putting forth effort at home, I needed to be putting forth effort at the office. And so, like, it's not just about me, right? And it drove her nuts. And I would either make excuses and, like, gaslight her, or I would just get sort of like cowardice about it. And I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. And then I would just do it again the next day. And then, like, I would say how sorry I was. And then I'd do that shit again in a week. It drives people crazy. Like, your words lose meaning at this point. Like, so amends can't be words. It has to be actions. That's really what matters. And so I had to stop creating chaos that I would have to apologize for. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. I still make mistakes. There will still be moments where I can completely invalidate my wife's feelings if I disagree with her. Like, I have this thing where I feel like feelings aren't facts, and I think that that's true. But the way that someone feels is still important. It still matters, especially if you care about that person. So I struggle with the balance between those two things sometimes, and oftentimes I will come off very invalidating in our arguments. And I have had to apologize for this periodically. It's not like it's once a week or once a month or anything like that, but I'll have to make those apologies and be like, listen, I'm still working on that. My fear is that if I validate this thought that you had, that it's also me condoning this thought that we can both agree after the fact is kind of wild. And so I struggle with that. Rather than just being there for someone and just letting them feel how they need to feel, I want to fix, and I have to apologize for that more than I would like. So it's not like you have to be perfect, right? I think that what matters is that like you're working on it. Let's say that you're someone that's like really struggling to get sober. Like how many times are your apologies going to mean something to somebody before they don't? You got at some point back this shit up. And you see what I mean when I'm saying that? Like it matters. Like what you do ultimately matters. Like how many times can you apologize for relapsing? Maybe as you're figuring it out, there's people have patience for that a few times. Like, hey, I thought I could do it on my own, but I need more support. Like I need to have people who I can talk to. Someone who can hold me accountable, whoever that is. I need to have some kind of a process I follow. I need to, really remove these triggering environments for a while, like whatever it might be. But at some point, you're going to run out of fucking excuses, and they're just excuses. They're just straight up excuses at that point because you're not putting forth the effort and you're not changing your behaviors. You're not wanting to get uncomfortable. And people get tired of that stuff, man. So if you want more trust, at the end of the day, do less shady shit. I think that's really what it boils down to. If you want to stop hurting people, stop making messes and then asking for grace like it's owed to you. People lose patience with that eventually. And I think that for spouses or partners, like what you can do if you've been lied to, at the end of the day, I want you to know that you deserve truth and you're not crazy for needing clarity. Like this person that emailed me, like my heart broke for her. She said that her husband is failing to apologize for things that they both know that he needs to apologize for. And there's obviously details that are vaguely known that he refuses to acknowledge because of this clause in the 9th step, which is except when to do so would injure them or others. Listen, you're entitled to the information. It's your decision if you want to stay in that relationship or not, or what it looks like to rebuild it. But I think you owe it to people to make that decision for themselves. We don't get to make that decision for them. I hope that makes sense. It's not up to you. It's up to them. I know that's scary. I know that feels like a loss of control, but that's kind of the point. We return control to the harmed person and let them dictate the terms of what repair looks like. Anyone I've ever worked with, I've always said, there's a fourth part to that Jimmy John sign that wasn't over there, wasn't on there. What can I do to make this right? And then in addition, is there anything that I haven't acknowledged that I need to be made aware of? And then you give them the floor and you let them talk about their pain. You let them talk about things that you didn't acknowledge. Here's a fucked up part about the amends process, I think, in some sense, is that we name the harm. I get to name the harm. I harm, right? So I knew that in the beginning, like I had lied to Paige, and I apologize. Like I'm incredibly sorry for being a liar, for making up these untruths, and for how that must have felt to not be able to trust yourself, and for me to stand by those lies and to gaslight you and to challenge your sense of reality and how that must have affected you. And I just want to know what I can do to make that right. And her answer was something to the effect of like, stop fucking doing it. And then what I should have asked at that, after making all these amends was, is there anything that I haven't acknowledged that I need to know about? Because oftentimes spouses know exactly what we need to make amends for. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen the message from a spouse that says, they didn't bring up the most important things to me. They didn't acknowledge this stuff. This is an important moment for both people. Remember, it's about them, not about us. It's about them. It's about correcting the harm. Amends is to repair. Repair is up to them. It's not up to us. It's up to them to decide what that looks like. Let's say that you stole from a friend and you told them, hey man, I stole money from you when you were asleep. I took money out of your wallet and I'm really sorry. And I can imagine how that felt to have you, the insecurity to know that something would come up missing in your own home, and how your home is supposed to feel like a safe space and now it's not. And I am responsible for breaking that. And I just want to know what I can do to make that right. Most of the time they're going to be like, well, if you stole $20, you owe me $20. But what they might say is, you owe me $20 plus interest. And I think I would feel a lot better if you really understood this, if you volunteered at a homeless shelter or something to that effect. Dude, be willing to accept that. That's what they need. Those are their terms. Okay. And it is a verb. And would it be the worst thing to do that, to hang out with disadvantaged people? No, it wouldn't, to give back. But you have to be ready for whatever they come up with. Most people, 99% of the time, are just going to say, just keep doing what you're doing. It's okay. You're forgiven. And it's really not as scary as we think it is. But I think it's important that spouses and partners get the truth. And if you need clarity, you can get it. So if something's left out, you can state that. Hey man, I think I want to know more about this affair. Who was it with? And also respect the fact that this is where it isn't important to injure them or others. If they say that I'd rather not discuss that, you kind of have to respect that in some sense, because it could tear apart another family, and we could go down the morality of that, but that's kind of the spirit of that. But if they ask how frequent, you can divulge that if they want to know where, all that stuff. You can ask these kinds of questions to get answers. But also I think that we all have to understand the step. The purpose is to prevent harm, actual harm to innocent parties. And if you're the one making the amends, you are not others. You have to be willing to accept whatever comes out the other side of that. I think it's just so important to have relationships that are based on real stuff, and it's not superficial, and it's not based on a lie. I can't imagine what it feels like going through life in a relationship that's based on a falsity. This is a farce. And to look at your partner who is happy in a moment and just know that the only reason I'm here is because I lied about something. I wouldn't want to be in that kind of a relationship. I'd rather be with people, if we're going to repair this, at least you know the truth. It means much more that way. It's based on something real at that point. It's not based on this farce, this lie, this falsehood, if that makes sense. It's just important that we're upfront. So stop hiding behind this. If you're someone who's hiding behind this little cop-out clause, like, stop hiding behind a step that you haven't actually worked, if that's the way that you're doing this. And it's not spiritual discernment. It's secrecy. Let's just fucking call it what it is. And stop avoiding taking accountability because you don't want to deal with the consequences. That's kind of the point. It's a humbling process, but it's important to other people that we know that we're on equal footing. If you have people in your life that have treated you right, they deserve the same from you. So start by being honest, fully honest, and live in a way where you don't have to keep cleaning up after yourself. I think that's kind of the spirit of this. This is what it's meant to do. This is like my relationship today is based on pure honesty. Even in moments where I know that being honest is going to upset her, I'm honest. I'm just going to be honest. If people can expect anything from me at all, it's honesty. You're going to get the truth from me. And this is in business and everything else. There have been a million times in business. It gets tricky in business because kind of the rules of business dictate that it's zero sum sometimes. Like I win and you lose. That's kind of like how transactions work sometimes, especially when it comes to like lawsuits and settlements and stuff like that. Becomes kind of weird how you discern the difference between like harming someone and being honest. But even in business where I could have benefited by omitting information or not being honest, I've just chosen to be honest. I'd rather even have business relations. I'd rather make less money and be able to sleep better at night. It's fine with me. I'm okay with that. I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I'm doing the deal. Like I am about what I stand for. Like I live this stuff, and it's not just a concept or not just an idea or a theory to me. I live this stuff, and I live it in every aspect of my life. And so every friend that I have, every relationship that I have is based on authenticity, and it's based on honesty at the very least. And you can like me for who I am, or you can just not like. It's fine, but you're going to get the truth, and you can decide for yourself if you want to be my friend. Because at one time in my life, my biggest fear was if you knew who I really was, you would want nothing to do with me. And these are the lies that we tell ourselves oftentimes. What you're going to find is whenever you start just being you, you're going to find the people that really matter, like really matter. Like when you get sober, you figure out who your friends are, man, pretty quickly. The people that really matter. And honestly, like this is something I heard in recovery that's always stuck with me is that those that mind don't matter and those that matter don't mind. Most people are going to be willing to give you a shot, but you got to be honest, man. Come forth with it. It's a weight lifted off your shoulders. Like I felt like for the first time I could look the world in the eye, and I felt confident. I felt like an adult for the first time in my adult life. After I really came forth and just started being honest. It's a really amazing feeling not having any secrets. It's an incredibly freeing feeling. And there's something even more powerful about having relationships that are based in truth and ones in which you have even divulged information that was harmful to the other person. And and you made that right. You gave them the chance to even say what that would look like. That's an amazing freeing thing for people, but you need to let them decide. We don't get to decide what that looks like. It's up to them. So when this is, more recovery minded than anything, but I think it's a mindset in general. I think that we should approach relationships this way. This is just my opinion. This is how I've approached all my relationships. And at the very least, they're real. I think if you had to ask anyone that knows me what I'm about, they'd be like, that dude just is who he is. Like, what you see is what you get. There's nothing fake about it, man. This is the way to go about things. This is just be you. For better or for worse, this is who I am. This is what I've done. What can we do about this? How can I make this right? And that's what your relationships ought to be based on. Do not hide behind this little escape clause. That's not meant for you. That's for other people. That's for not causing other people more harm. And that doesn't mean the truth. The truth is going to cause harm, man. But they get to decide if they stick in it or not. You have to let them decide. You don't get to decide for them. I think that's the most important part I would like people to take away from this. If you're in this, or if your partner's in it and you've been wondering, like the person that wrote this question in was wondering. He's absolutely using that shit to cop out of some really pertinent information. And I don't give a fuck what his sponsor says. Remember, sponsorship, like, you're only as healthy as your sponsor. You're only as healthy as that group. And we're amateurs helping each other, right? So if someone's telling you that, get a second opinion. Talk to more people. Think about it more deeply. That's what I would do anyway. I had the fortunate experience of having someone that walked me through this who was really healthy and was able to really discern things. And I really valued what they brought to the table as a sponsor, because they would always call themselves on their own shit, and they called me on my shit. And I think that's important. Don't find people that are going to co-sign your bullshit. That's the worst person in your recovery. Don't find anyone that will co-sign your bullshit. Find someone that will question it and tell you the difficult thing. If the answer's easy, it's generally the wrong thing. If the answer's hard, it's usually the right thing. That's been my experience anyway. When in doubt, don't go the hard way. It's usually the way you should be rolling. So that's all I've got. I don't know what I've got for next time, but if you guys have any questions, send them in to me. I like answering questions. That's really fun for me. I think they make good episodes too. I've got a few in my bag that I'd like to touch on, some more validation type episodes, but these are fun as well. So if you got anything, send it over to us. You click the suggest an episode button in the podcast episode description. You'll find it there. You can also email us, info@twfocouple.com, and shoot us a question. I'll get them there as well. So thanks for listening in. Have a great week. Until next time, I'm Matt. I'll see you.